everybody. Welcome to Verified Investing. My name is Gareth Soloway, Chief Market Strategist. In today's video, we're going to take a look at the Palantir chart. Palantir is taking a beating today. It's now down 5 days in a row. I want to show you where the key support levels are and what to look for. So let's dive right into the chart here and take a look. So Palantir down almost 7% today. That's a big drop. Notice again what I just mentioned, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days down in a row, coming just off of that all-time high. I want to show you where I have a trend line that shows us that all-time high level, right? So basically what you can do is right here, extend this line out. Basically, this was that last pullback going into April 7th, and then the high, pullback, high, and notice how it respected those lines or that line. In other words, pulled back here, pulled back here. So what would you expect off of the line up here? A pullback, and that is exactly what is happening. Now, take a look. The drop today is a beauty. Look at where it's finding technical support. There's a flat area here. In fact, I went over this today in the game plan, which again is exclusive to being on verifiedinvesting.com's homepage. You can go view it there, or you can go to the Verified Investing YouTube and you can view it there. But I did talk about a target price near term of this gap fill. And look, it's going right there and finding a little bit of support. So it does have support here, but this is the kicker. Based on how extended this move is, it is most likely going to go lower after a bounce. So short term, generally off of a gap fill like this, we should see some sort of bounce. And then the next leg lower, once it takes or if it takes out this 160 level, look for the next move down to take you to about 145. All right. So again, monitor that in the near term. All right. Now look at this. If we zoom out on this chart, it shows you how extended this chart has gotten. Incredible. Not only was the run here from 2024 August to the high here of February incredible. Then we had obviously the Liberation Day massive collapse in the markets in Palantir, but then the subsequent rally to the upside has been beyond impressive, beyond impressive. Now, one thing I always like to show is there's something in general that's kind of called a measured move here. And what we could see here is if we look at the low to the high here and we map that out, you can see really you can't include this the low from April, but you can see we came right up to that high level. Then it just peaked above, hit it, and then boom. So essentially you can say the measured move played out. It then just got briefly above it just because it needed to touch this trend line and then came in. So again, folks, interesting to see that. But again, Palantir down 6.73% on the day. Now, where could this go? I mean, like, where do we start looking and saying, okay, Palantir is finally at a buyable level in the near term, meaning over the next month or 2 or 3, what I'd be looking for, and let me bring up my drawing tool here, I'd be looking at the former pivot and the gap fill. Okay, so right here, I could see the sell-off, so small bounce, maybe right here at 160, maybe back to 170, somewhere in this vicinity, and then the next leg lower. I'd start to look for a more significant bounce on Palantir if we get back to about 125 to 120. Notice again where I'm finding this level, guys. It's your previous all-time high before that big drop, and it's also a gap fill right here. There was a gap fill where it closed this day and then opened up the next day and ran higher. And so this would then become what I would look for as a swing trade. Now, would I swing trade this? Probably not. Now, again, if you're more aggressive than I, sure. But again, don't get your expectations too high. The likelihood based on charts and probabilities, you get maybe a $10 bounce here at most. And again, that's at most. I don't think it would go more than that. If it breaks or when it breaks 160, that's where I start to salivate for a flush down to the 125 to 120 level. That, my friends, would be a better swing trade level where I would actually think it could bounce as much as a few weeks off of that level, potentially even rallying back as much as to $150 a share. So again, you're talking about, potentially 20% upside on Palantir off of that level. And then lastly, let's talk about the Armageddon. So if a financial crisis hits, where would Palantir come back to? Okay, where would it be? It would be back into this level. Notice your August low here. Okay, this is August 2024, which was a big sell-off period in the markets. down to your April 7th low. That gives us a $93 downside. So this, again, if you get a major, like let's say the NASDAQ drops 20%, this would be your target. If the NASDAQ just corrects 10%, this is your target here, 125 to 120. And then again, 20% correction or greater, this would be your buyable level right down here. By the way, on this, look, there's a gap fill right there as well, right around 90. So 93 to $90, that would be a fantastic level on Palantir. All right. Now, on the bull side, let's just say the bull market continues to rip higher. Palantir, if it doesn't break 160, your upside would be capped at this same trend line here, which if we extend it out, would be, again, depending on where it hits along this trend line, but that would be your upside, kind of maximum upside in the near term before you would experience a drawdown or pullback. All right, guys, lots of action in today's market. Robinhood's getting hammered after gapping up. Palantir's down. Semis are getting hit today. Remember, if you've been following my game plans, NVIDIA broke a key support, and we're seeing that thing drop off a cliff, right? So it broke support. Broadcom broke support. The semis are cracking, which means the market is at risk of cracking itself. We'll follow this along, guys. I will, of course, keep you enlightened, both in the services here at verifiedinvesting.com, where you get premium content from me, as well as in the game plans and these individualized videos. Have a great one. Thanks so much. Take care.